There's the pedal that we see being picked up. So Fnatic, interesting choice.
Man, SK Gaming with that pedal pick. Obviously, it is something that can be used to counter the Kroll, but it is also a flex pick. They could still end up putting that up in the lane for Kvalifar. So a lot of options available to them.
Yeah, indeed. And the Lyra ban follows right afterwards. That's a ban that says we're going to eliminate one of the available tier 1 roamers and then get the other one being the Arden. So Fnatic right here, if they don't ban it, I expect SK to pick it up. And then if Fnatic do ban the Arden, it's either going to be possibly the Chain Walker that I mentioned, or even the Lance could come out.
Catherine, another one of these heroes that can be picked up in that captain role, but you definitely expect SK to go for their captain pick with their second selection, just because you then can keep that that little bit of air of mystery around this pedal and save that counter pick for your final selection. But Fnatic definitely putting a lot of thought into this one, trying to decide, do we want to give that Arden over, or do you take it away?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Tasty Bacon, having that flexibility is so huge for B-side in general, because you want to save your last pick to counterpick the entire composition that does come out from the A-side team.
Baptiste going to be taken off the board here by Fnatic, so not wanting to prioritize that Arden, maybe thinking that they need that disengage taken off the board.
It feels to me like they wanted this Catherine pick, just because you ban away the Baptiste. Now SK isn't going to decide, okay, let's take the Catherine and hope for the Catherine-Baptiste combo. It then kind of leaves the Catherine open, but with SK taking the Grace, now all of a sudden you have Arden and Lance and the Catherine available. They go for the Lance. A little bit reliable stun on the Githian wall. If you can knock a Grace out of the ultimate, you can cancel the heal, you can cancel the Holy Novas. So a lot of strength with that Lance pick. But now they need the heavy damage to come through with their final pick on Fnatic.
Yeah, possibly Kestrel, possibly even Celeste or Scarf, something that's mage that can deal with Petal much better later on with a range advantage and can combine with the Cruel very well. It does end up being the Scarf. This is the first Scarf we see here in 2.9 actually, I believe, and it hasn't been prioritized a lot just because people are not believing in it so far. So Techno JJ going to be running that in lane.
Yeah, I think we did see it like once or
we saw it once or
maybe,
twice, yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely been a rare pick. That is definitely for sure. And I think when we did see it, it was in the jungle. But either way, the CP items changed a lot, and that kind of hurt Scarf because of Broken Myth changing a little bit. Now, SK have to decide where they want to go. I assume that the Petal will be going into jungle against that Crawl. It's just a very nice pick for them.
It could go into the jungle versus the Cruel. However, they're going to need something to dive in on the Scarf later on. If they go for the CP Petal, they need a melee laner that can dive in. Something such as the Weapon Power Aegis would be good for them. On the other hand, if they go for Weapon Power Petal and get something like an Alpha, then the dive is a lot better. Or the Reza works perfectly.
Reza comes on through as the final pick for SK, so they've got that dive locked on down here. How are we feeling about the compositions? Who's going to be the first team to be really pushing that aggression?
You feel like Fnatic should be the team that is pushing the aggression, because we've seen time and time again this Reza pick can get bullied very heavily in the early game. Once he gets his Aftershock, it becomes a totally different story. But if you can just punish him hard before that Aftershock, all of a sudden that power spike's not as significant.
At the same time, they do have the Scarf for the late game scaling, so they might not even feel the pressure they need to push the early game. They could play safe and just try to go for ganks around Cruel's level 6 and try to scale the Scarf.
All right, I have to ask, how important is this early game going to be when it comes down to the Elder Train? That's something we see teams fighting a lot for in the early game. Is this going to be a focus for both of the teams here?
I don't know if it's necessarily going to be, because, like Hamza was saying, Fnatic, if things seem to go a little bit south, they're perfectly fine with just backing off and farming to late game. So I think there'll be contention over it, but it's not going to be like an all-in team fight.
I have to say, SK's composition is very reliant on diving on the Scarf, and they have a Cruel and a Lance. Fnatic do have a Cruel and a Lance to be peeling for that Scarf, so it's going to be very difficult for SK to try and execute if they don't get any mid-game advantages. That's where I'm going to be focusing on watching.
I have to say, looking at the Fnatic composition as well, this feels like kind of almost a fallback comfort composition for Fnatic. This feels very classic with the EU Scarf, as it were, coming on through. Are we expect to see a better performance than what we saw out of the semis and finals?
I mean, I would really hope so. Like you said, it's a bit of a throwback. A couple years ago, it was always Scarf Kroll was the European meta. All
right, we'll see if that's going to be the case coming on through. It's time to get on into this on #Vainglory8. Let us know who you are supporting. It's SK versus Fnatic, an esports classic coming on through. And it's time to get on into game number 1 and pass it to our casters.
Denominator bring you all of the EU action. Denominate, big game here for both these two teams. What are you feeling coming out of draft?
Well, coming out of the draft, we definitely have to look at that Reza pick up. It is a very aggressive mid-game pick. There's going to be a very key point where Reza is going to get that Aftershock online, and his gameplay is going to change very drastically. And now, with Techno JJ going into lane on Scarf, it is going to be about him in the late game trying to punish the Reza for diving into the backline. A little bit of a skirmish here down in the jungle, but nothing major starting up yet.
Yeah, Nettoilet's taking the bad end of that skirmish, but he should be okay for the time being, and Fnatic will be able to push forward as a 3-man. We're going to see a fight around the Elder Treant. Have to see which team is able to land their skill shots early on. Treant goes low, Tyra's there. It's going to be secured by Palmatoro. That actually goes on towards Techno JJ in the backline. A great Githian wall will knock Tyra's into the wall, and Fnatic should be able to retreat from this. Cavalifar not done, trampolines forward, but Palmatoro trying to rush away. Hegman with the chase. Not quite going to be able to get the knock-up, but Palmatoro will eventually fall. Githian wall comes out. Not going to be enough to save him. It's first blood over to SK.
That's a great start for SK. You know, they were talking about it on the table, is that the Reza needs to be punished early, and losing out on a first fight, definitely not the way to do so. Now, that kill did go over to Hegman, and that is important to make note of, as he is not one of the carries. He does have a little bit cheaper of a build, so that will help get the Fountain online a little bit earlier. It's going to make up for the aggressive Weapon Blade that he's already picked up for this early game to try to hold things off. So it's maybe not the most ideal target you want to get that gold on, but definitely can be helpful for your cause, as now Fnatic is rotating up, and Cavalifar on this weapon pedal, it's going to take him quite a bit of time to scale up as well, so we're not going to see a whole lot of aggression be able to come out of this pedal in the early game, but once the tornado triggers start coming through, that's definitely going to change pretty drastically.
So it feels to me like you've got Tyras on the Reza for the mid game. He's the one who's going to hold down the fort early on, and then later on we'll see Cavalifar really come into their own. SK don't seem to have too many weaknesses in that composition. Is there anything that Fnatic can do to actually lock them down and to shut down this SK lineup, apart from just killing Cavalifar straight away? Great impale into the goop there. Hegman's going to get chased away as well, but that's what Fnatic need to do, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to take time for the pedal and the Reza to come online. It's going to take time for Scarf as well, but you know, when you're going into a late game matchup against a Scarf, attempting to beat the Scarf out on damage is usually not the case that you come across. So Hegman in the late game going to be able to provide a bit of sustain to the team, but if they can get a Spitfire onto this pedal, they are going to force that kind of utility out very early on, and it's only going to be a matter of time before they're able to really get some damage in. Tyra's, you know, again, will have a very strong mid-game spike, but that's going to start to fall off as we get towards the late game as Kroll and Scarf come on as well. So it's going to be SK having to win out the mid game. The very early game and the very late game should be in favor of Fnatic. And now I do want to make note on what the analyst said, is Fnatic is pretty much out of the running for that world spot, but what they can do is they can deny SK points, and that's going to allow other teams to have the opportunity to get in. It's more of like a denial play at this point.
Yeah, sometimes it's just as good to be able to upset the reigning champions as it is to get the position for yourself. We did see a trade in the middle lane there, but Nettoilet is going to go down to the Githian. With the Githian wall as he gets taken out underneath the turret. That's a bit of a strong dive there from SK. Not expecting to see them go just quite that deep. Techno JJ was waiting in the wings, but as we said, doesn't really have the damage on the Scarf yet to harass down Cavalifar. Tyra's going to come in from the side, trying to jump on towards that Scarf, but actually jumping all the way underneath the turret will have to be forced away by those turret shots.
Yeah, Hegman, you know, he's a little bit newer to the team, obviously coming through the second split. He's had some time with them. Obviously, Raph was the starter for them before, but he really came onto the team without a hitch. His playstyle just really fits that of Tyra's and Cavalifar, and, you know, Tyra's a big name as well, you know, came onto this team as kind of the unknown rookie, and really quickly made a name for himself with Cavalifar as well. Again, just kind of their playstyle meshes very, very well. And now Tyra's looking to rotate down to the shop, is going to get that Aftershock online, and this is where the spike really starts to begin for this Reza.
Yeah, having the Aftershock, this is where we need to see SK really dominate the game as well. We said their mid game is the strongest. If Fnatic get to that later game portion, they will be able to come back online with the Scarf, with the damage coming out from the Crawl as well. We already see a Fountain on Net Toilette. Eve first for Techno JJ as he gets jumped on by Tyrus, just trying to keep himself alive through this harass, through this burst that comes down from SK.
Absolutely, definitely a difficult thing to have done here. Hegman taking a bit of damage, but obviously on the Grace, quite tanky enough to survive. He's not at that level 6 mark yet, so we don't have a Divine Intervention, as well as obviously, since that ability is not even up, we're nowhere near an Echo. But once we get to that, transition into the late game and the double Divine Intervention is going to be able to come out, it's going to give Cavalifar so much additional sustain, where this Weapon Power Petal is going to be able to use the trampoline, get that additional range on the basic attacks, as well as the additional 20% weapon power as well, and can really start to blow teams up, hitting for big 300, 400, 500, 600 damage spikes. Onto a squishy character like, the Scarf, for example, that can make very short work of his health bar in no time at all. And with SK getting the lead early, it is going to be a little bit difficult for Fnatic to shut that down in the late game. They're going to be relying very heavily on Techno JJ to get the damage down.
Palmasol got caught out a little bit in the jungle there, was trading into Hegman and to Tyrus, and SK win it out in the end, but I don't think Fnatic have done just quite yet as they try and fight around the tree. It does go over to SK, so they'll be happy with that. And Palmatar and Net Toilette very much on signature champions here, signature heroes, but have yet to see that strong performance from them. Net Toilette has missed quite a few impales, his Gideon walls haven't quite been on point, and you really need to have your players step up at this sort of position in the competition. If you want to shut down SK, if you want to deny them that world spot, this is where your big names, this is where your consistent players need to step up to the plate and actually show how much they're worth.
Oh, absolutely. And Fnatic, even if they win the next 2 weeks, would only be able to tie SK. If SK gets a single point, that's not even a reality for the side of Fnatic. So this game is very much important if Fnatic wants to be able to have any sort of running whatsoever. Obviously, their performance, could influence a wildcard spot potentially. Just have to see what they're able to do. Tyrus is going in.
Yeah, Fountain was used there from Fnatic to keep himself safe. Palmatar was looking for the flank, but SK are able just to get out of that. Tyrus went all the way in with a Netherform Detonator, but it was basically ends up just being a Fountain for Fountain trade in the lane, and Fnatic comfortable enough to stay here and stay in the lane for the time being. We are starting to see a little bit more scaling from Fnatic. 8 minutes in, you've got a breaking point already finished on towards Palmatar. You've got Techno JJ going back now with 2,500 gold. He'll be looking towards the Dragon's Eye as his second item. So just really trying to get this scaling, get this stacking up on towards the side of Fnatic, because SK haven't really utilized this mid-game spike as much as perhaps they would have liked to. They still have a little bit of time on it. They are on a clock, and with only 1,000 gold lead, they really need to start taking these trades and being effective in the way that they fight Fnatic.
Yeah, absolutely. Scarf is obviously going to be a hero that comes online at that, 3 or 4 item mark. Obviously, with the changes to I'm sorry, drawing a blank here for a second. The Broken Myth no longer having the immense amount of scaling that it does. It's now split up into multiple items, one of them being that Dragon's Eye. That is going to allow Scarf to ramp up his damage very quickly in the fights, but it doesn't have the natural pierce built into a single item now. It is split up into Broken Myth and that Dragon's Eye, so he does have to get multiple items online to be the damage threat that the Scarf needs to be. And again, it's going to take time. Bacon talks about it quite often, that Scarf's win rate after the 17-minute mark, it skyrockets. So that's where Fnatic is really looking for, is that 17, 18, 19-minute mark, where they're able to force out the fights very early on out of the side of SK, and they very easily could take this game. They just have to make it that far, and then the positioning has to come out as well. I mean, you don't have to land your Spitfires onto the Petal or onto the Reza. If you force all of the utility out of Hegman early, then that is equally as useful, because you could just get push off the back of it.
And Scarf, one of the best pushing heroes in the game as well. So easy to take down turrets if you can just get range of them. Hegman's going to step forward into Fnatic here. Not enough vision really from Fnatic to know where Tyrus is. I can actually only see one scout trap in their tri-bush and one in their mustache bush as well. So they need to be a little bit cautious as to how they do approach these next fights, because SK will be wanting to try and engage, especially onto Techno JJ. If they can make a catch, here goes Tyrus jumping in. Techno JJ gets back underneath the turret. Netherform Detonator is going to lock Tyrus down underneath that turret. The great Kithian Wall will knock him back as well into the Impale. That is blocked out, but he might die. Just out survives with the Fountain being used by Hegman and the Health Infusion being used as well. That Healing Flask. Good stun, gonna land as well as they fight on towards Hegman here. Good knockback from Netwillet, and Hegman is caught out. Fnatic with their second kill of the game.
Yeah, Fnatic tying that one up, definitely in a good spot, but they're looking for more.
We'll get the knockback. Palmato pops his own healing fast. Tyrus can just go a little bit aggressive here because he's able to get back in on full HP, but SK seems like they're forcing fights a little bit too much. It's almost as if they can feel that World Championships, slot within their grasp, and thus they want it just ever so slightly too quickly. They're not taking opportune fights because they know if they win 1 or 2, they're well on their way to Worlds.
Yeah, SK are in a good spot up here at the top in Europe. I believe when I was doing the calculations earlier, I think they need about 7 points over the next 2 weeks to guarantee their victory. So a good performance here could really be the start of a lot. Obviously, making it to day 2 is an opportunity to gain 6 additional points over the day 1 points. So this week could potentially be all SK needs, but we saw them drop in game 1 last weekend against G2. So they need to regroup here. Hopefully they've done their practice throughout the week and prepared themselves for getting here and trying to get these final points locked down that they need. They won every other week with the exception of last week, so definitely a team that has the skill capability of doing so, but they're up against Fnatic, and Fnatic definitely has those pockets of gameplay where if they bring their A game, they can be the best team in the league, but when it comes down to consistency, I gotta give the edge over to SK, so I think they're gonna be my favorite going into who's gonna win this matchup.
Still very close though at the moment. Only 1,000 gold in it at the 12-minute mark, and we are getting towards that 4-item scarf as well. He's already sitting the Clockwork, the Dragon's Eye, and the Eve of Harvest. 3/4 of the way there. You've got an Atlas and a Breaking Point finished on Palmato. Net has his Echo, so you can look for those double Githian walls. Kavalifar's going to go back here with 2,000 gold. I expect him to be looking towards that next crit item. Has the Tornado Trigger and the Sorrow Blade already completed, but not actually going to finish that recall. Wants to stay clear out this way.
Yeah, definitely is a little bit of a risk. Kvalifar coming in here. He's very hurt, but again, that Divine Intervention online is going to be able to help him survive. But we see the amount of threat that a Scarf has on turrets. I mean, even with the barrier reforming on that turret, that Spitfire and Goop combination was able to tick a little bit of damage past where they were at. So out-damaging that actual barrier regeneration. Got the turret down very low now, and Fnatic could be looking for it now.
Yeah, good route onto Tyrus. The Goop goes down once again. Kavalifar's rejoined. He's got his second Tornado Trigger, so that Petal is going to start to hurt a huge amount more. You've got the Broken Myth as well on towards Tyrus, so he is scaling up on this Reza, but we haven't seen that impactful mid-game. Now we're getting towards the later portion, the portion where we thought perhaps Fnatic would have the advantage, and SK maybe feeling a little bit tense, maybe thinking that they need to do something soon because otherwise they miss their window in this game.
Yeah, and that's definitely, again, this is one of the most important matchups for both of these teams as far as this week goes. Whoever wins this one is able to go on and again could acquire up to 6 additional points. So there's a lot on the line with only 2 weeks left. We see the damage that Kvalifar is already starting to put out, but it's going to still take him a little bit of time. He does have the second Tornado Trigger online. It's going to be getting that Monocle or third Tornado Trigger that he's really going to start to be that uncontrollable threat.
Echo finished for Hegman there as well, so looking for those double Divine Interventions if they do come out, looking for as much heal as possible. Hegman is going to jump onto Techno JJ, but with Netwillet waiting in the wings, he's in a pretty good position. There is a bit of a Barney in the jungle as well as Tyrus and Palmato butt heads, but neither of them is really going to take too much damage from that at all. And with it being so even, not even a turret fallen yet at the 15-minute mark, it's very reminiscent of European play in general. Over the last few weeks, we have seen a little bit more aggression, a little bit more early game from Europe, but it seems like we've reverted to the norm. It's going to be a slower game for both these two teams.
Yeah, a little bit of a slow game, and that's kind of the nature of Europe. Some teams have adapted to that very aggressive playstyle, others have not. Both of them obviously right now showing they're very comfortable. Gold mine's coming through.
Taken by SK. They're not going to look for too much of a fight afterwards. Kraken does awake, of course, at that 15-minute mark. That's why SK wanted to rush that down. The From Hell's Heart not going to land. It's brother v brother, the former Team Secret pals going in on each other, but Palmatoro has to run away. Net2Let now in that front line with the Githian wall. Here comes the Netherform detonation from Tyrus as SK go on the aggressive, chasing down Net2Let. Will fall. SK get their third kill of the game. And perhaps we'll look towards the Kraken as well. It's a bit of a risky one. Might just go for the turret instead, but they have started up that Kraken.
Yeah, the Kraken has been started up, and they will be able to take it fairly quickly with the Reza and the Petal. But with 2 members of Fnatic alive, it still could be a danger. We see
Look at those
Valifar going in.
That is devastating onto Techno JJ. 518 damage time and time again. Ty was there in that front line. Palmatoro's going to try and run back in, but this will be the Kraken for SK. A lot of turrets for it to work through, but SK looking like they've hit the spike they wanted, and are starting to take the fights that they can win.
Yeah, absolutely looking for it. And now with the Kraken push, they definitely could have a opportune moment here. But we see teams time and time again get a little too aggressive when it comes to that Kraken push. So will we be able to see them, push in successfully without overextending? And that's really their whole win condition on this push. I mean, obviously with 4 turrets, they're going to be able to take the Kraken down. But if they give up an ace here, it could be a counter push coming out of Fnatic just based on their objective taking capabilities. The Kraken's already down to half. We can see the Scarf doing so much work in this scenario.
So is the Petal, though. Shredding through Palmatoro, who has that Atlas, but cannot get close enough. That's 3 turrets with the push, and they'll accept that, take the Kraken down eventually. But it's going to be a 4,000 gold lead, at least, for SK as they come off this. Remove a Crystal Sentry from the map as well. It's only the first one in the game to go down, so I don't think they'll be eliminating that completely, but a little bit of extra gold in the back pockets of SK. They'll go back, they'll buy. We'll have to see exactly how far they are ahead in terms of items when they get this. War Tread's finished on Hegman. Tyrus is looking towards the Broken Myth Aftershock and the Aegis, and it's a Tyrant's Monocle, as you said, for Kavalavar. So even more crit and even more damage from him. If he can get onto Techno JJ, you're looking at 2 or 3 shots from that Petal to melt through the Scarf.
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of the glass cannon risk-reward scenario for these heroes that build 4 offensive items. Obviously, we have Tyrus building into his 3rd right now, but at the end of it, it will likely be him just going into some additional defense. So he'll get that 3rd item complete. It is the Eve of Harvest. I'm actually surprised he didn't go with the Dragon's Eye, but likely going to be working into an Atlas Pauldron to help his team slow up the attacks out of Krull, because obviously with the Krull, the more attacks he's able to get out, he can actually lower the damage coming out of Kavalavar if he's allowed to get latched onto him, and then obviously Palmatoro with the Atlas Pauldron of his own can slow down those attacks as well and really be a nuisance.
Yeah, Palmatoro is on Kavalavar here, looking for the From Hell's Heart. Won't connect with the stun. That's blocked out. Kavalavar gets the kill. Here's the Dragon's Breath from Techno. Can he get onto that backline? Kavalavar healing up, but the Dragon's Breath will kill him. Now he's in a 1v1 versus Tyrus. Good Impale is blocked out. Double goop comes out from Techno, and Tyrus will fall. It's all on Hegman. Can he take down the Scarf? He can, but he falls. It's an ace for Fnatic.
An ace for Fnatic, but with Net2Let being the only one alive, that does make it a bit difficult for them to actually get anything off of it. With the Ace Wave, he might be able to push down this turret, but it's still going to be, not really the best game they could have had. It was an incredibly close fight. Hegman fortunately was able to take down the Scarf. Otherwise, that probably would have been 2 turrets resulting for Fnatic. And Fnatic, again, when they bring their A game, they can compete with the best. They can take down the best. We saw him with a very good performance in week number 1, and it's been kind of hit or miss since then. So to see them come out big against SK, who is sitting up in that number 1 position, I'm glad to see that when it counts, they've really turned their attention onto their practice and making sure that they're ready for this matchup. And the Scarf, again, historically a pick for Techno JJ and for a lot of Europe, and now he has his 4th item online. This is where Scarf can really start to be a massive threat with this level 12 infusion and Aegis as well.
Tyrus doesn't seem to care. He's stepping forward straight into the face of Net2Let. He's finished the Atlas Pauldrons now as well, so if they can get onto Kavalavar, they slow that attack speed so much. They reduce all of the damage coming out from the Petal, but at the moment it still looks like SK feel they are in the driver's seat. Look at the damage from Cavalifar across the wall onto Techno. Down to half already. Now he needs to retreat. All of SK trying to get away, but From Hell's Heart hits into the Impale. The root comes out, but Tyrus is just going to jump onto Techno JJ. And now Cavalifar's still alive in the backline. Tyrus down low. Palmatari trying to jump around. There's another form detonation. Techno JJ somehow still alive. So is Cavalifar. The two carries jumping around. Cavalifar goes in deep, gets the kill. And now it's on Net2Elect to try and do something. And Palmatari caught in the midst of SK. Should be an easy kill, but Palmato will get locked up here by SK. Eventually falls to Cavalifar. Great play by him, and SK take the 2-0 team fight win.
Yeah, and Cavalifar was actually getting bullied really well by Net2Elect, but a well-timed trampoline getting him out of the danger and getting him over the wall nets him a kill onto Techno JJ and provides him that additional safety. And now with the 2 kills on the carries, they're going to go ahead and safely start up this Kraken. They're going to take it without any contestation from Net2Elect. And just like that, SK back in the driver's seat. Only 2 turrets stand between them and a victory. They were able to get 2 turrets with their last push. But will we be able to get the final 2 turrets and the Vein Crystal down with this one? It's gonna be a close one. Obviously, we saw the amount of damage the Scarf can put down onto that Kraken well before it's even at the turrets. So it'll likely just be Techno coming out to throw out some of those Spitfires, get some poke down, maybe find some damage onto the members of SK. And if he can land a Spitfire and a Goop onto Cavalifar, that's gonna force a lot of utility out of Hegman very early as Tyra's pings out some vision there. Here we go.
Kraken pushing in, Crystal Sentry there as well. Cavalifar's going to trampoline across the wall. His positioning has been so good. The From Hell's Heart is blocked out. They're looking for the engage. Techno JJ being Netherform detonated upon, and he might explode, but he somehow gets away down towards the back of the fight. Now Cavalifar's going to jump forward. It's his turn to do the damage for SK. Jumping onto Net2Elect, and he gets the crits. It's another kill. They're going for the turrets as well. 1 turret plus 2 turrets will equal the game here for SK as they take down Fnatic. The Kraken's still alive. Off towards the side, Techno JJ falls as well. Great play by SK to take the win, and Fnatic fall to a clean ace as the game ends.
What a wild game there. SK, 2 Krakens to push it in. We're able to secure it. 1, 2, 3. The enemies fell. Turrets went down as well. Kraken helping them crash down this Vein Crystal's health. And Fnatic take a point. And this point is the most important one of the matchup, because now if even Fnatic makes a comeback and wins